morning everyone, hope you are okay and welcome back to another pregnancy vlog video. It's going to be a sit down talking one today. If you are new here, my name is Freya and I am currently nearly 34 weeks pregnant with my first baby. I've picked up the camera in my third trimester to try and document the rest of the process. But I thought before I get even further along in my pregnancy, we should probably recap on the start of my pregnancy and how that was. I put a Q&A box on my Instagram when I'd first announced the pregnancy, which was about 16, 17 weeks. And I got some questions that I realised that I never answered because I never picked up the camera. So I'm going to answer those, but also do like a general summary of my first and second trimester. Okay, getting straight into it. One of the first questions was the baby planned? Absolutely not. The baby was wanted, but not planned. Kids was always something on mine and Charlie's agenda, but we had just moved to Dubai, so we were thinking potentially like 2 or 3 years down the line. Anyone who knows me, though, knows how desperate for children I was and still am. Not that I like manifested it or baby trapped him in any sort of way. Let me just tell you, this baby is a slight miracle. So no, he wasn't planned, but very much wanted. Next question was, what were the first symptoms that made me test? So, being the hypochondriac that I am or used to be, I'm a lot better. It does mean that I'm very sort of in tune with my body, and I have a very, very regular menstrual cycle. Like my period comes without fail between like day 28 and day 30, maybe day 31. And I think I was around 3 days out from my predicted like first date of my period. And we didn't have a car at that point. We'd been in Dubai about a month or two and we were getting an Uber to the beach in the evening because we were like, let's have a date night. Let's go and eat some food on the beach and just walk along the beach, you know, like the loved up couple that we are. And in the taxi, I said to Charlie, oh, I feel really like crampy. Like I never usually feel crampy at this point in my cycle. Sometimes I'll feel crampy during ovulation. And then obviously sometimes I'd feel crampy before my period. So I thought potentially my period was just coming a little bit earlier than I'd predicted that month. Now, I want to make this point very, very important that in my mind, there were like the thought of being pregnant that month was not even on the cards. Like, you know when, Dad, if you're listening, turn off. You know when sometimes or some months there might be a bit of a risk it for a chalky biscuit moment, which please, anyone watching, do not try that at home. If you're going to try it anywhere, do it at home. You know when just months that you think, oh, could I be pregnant this month? We'd been like very careful before, so that wasn't even on the cards for us this specific month, so that didn't even go through my head. The cramping like kind of continued for 24 hours and I was like, I don't feel right. I have been pregnant before and you know, sadly that didn't work out. I knew that feeling. I started to like not feel right. It was another day closer to what should have been my period and I just wasn't getting those classic like PMS symptoms. It just felt different. When I say it just felt different, I mean I felt super drained, super crampy, and I'd usually get some like brown spotting before my period, but I was having none of that. Usually I'm not actually very hungry on my when I'm leading up to my period, but this month I actually was. So I felt this feeling before and I just quickly got on the phone and ordered some pregnancy tests. I did a pregnancy test and the line came back faint because obviously I was not due on my period for like another day or so, but it was definitely there. And I think I have a bit of footage from like when I'd seen that test. So I'm going to insert any footage now that I have of that day that I can root around on my phone and find. So I'd obviously seen the test. It all made sense as to why I was feeling as I was feeling. The date of that was December 19th. I'd done that in the ensuite. Charlie and I are so low-key. I wasn't going to do a big grand gesture to tell him. He was actually cooking his dinner. I just called him through and he took ages to come. And I just showed him the test. And obviously because this wasn't on our 2025 bingo card, he was quite shocked and needed a moment to himself to process the news. So he just went and did his thing. And over the next couple of days, we kind of got to grips with the fact that this was happening and that this was going to be our life. And that's the cards that we'd been dealt. Best thing ever. Everything happens for a reason. Everything that's happened before has led me to this moment now. They were my first symptoms and how I found out. The next question was, I had two questions. What were your first trimester symptoms? And then how are you finding pregnancy so far? So I'm going to kind of collate my first and second trimester symptoms and just go through generally how I found pregnancy overall. The first trimester was absolutely horrendous. You know, I've just mentioned that I've been pregnant before and I was incredibly sick. So when I found out I was pregnant this time, I was really nervous because, you know, we'd just moved. We have a business that really, like, we're really involved in and it really depends on us. And I didn't really have the capacity to be so sick, so I was really worried. But lo and behold, the sickness came in thick and fast. I think I had a week or two after finding out. It was Christmas time, it went into New Year, they were fine, and then about the 6-week mark hit and it was just horrendous. Charlie was seriously my rock during this time. I don't know if I'd like necessarily diagnose myself with HG or hyperemesis gravidarum, which is extreme morning sickness, but I did have quite extreme morning sickness. Be sick every day, just couldn't eat anything, constantly nauseous. I was on these anti-sickness tablets, which, do you know what, after doing some research, aren't very readily available in the UK, but they are in Dubai, and they were an absolute godsend. There's charities in the UK that support sickness in pregnancy, and I feel like I may reach out to them and just give my experience of this medication called Zonvia, which I know is given, but it's not given as readily as it was in Dubai. Anyway, I think I ran out of tablets because Dubai-wide, there was no stock of these tablets. And within a day, seriously, I was as worse as I'd ever been. A day of not taking it, I just had buckets on the sofa. That was basically the main theme of my first trimester. I'm a weight loss coach. I didn't work out. I didn't do my steps. I couldn't focus on my nutrition. And that's okay. I just focused on surviving. And honestly, it was like that until about 17 weeks. I really mentally fixated on the fact that everyone said that 12 weeks was the time that the sickness would get better again. Obviously, I didn't get that far in my previous pregnancy. I miscarried before that point. So when 12 weeks came around and I felt as worse as I ever had done before, I was like, fuck this. The anxiety of pregnancy after loss was kind of enough to just make me want to keep going. You know, I'm so desperate for this end product that I was like, I'm gonna battle through anything that I feel that's gonna help me get to the end product of this pregnancy, and thank God that I did. Other symptoms were just how tired I was. You know, I was napping every single day without fail. I had a terrible experience with round ligament pain, but I didn't think it was round ligament pain at the time. Picture this, I'm in my second trimester and I'm around 24 weeks. So I've started to get a bump. Granted, my bump really wasn't that big at the time. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I started to get this right or left-sided pain. I can't remember what side it was. I didn't think too much of it. I was quite tired, so Charlie and I went to bed fairly early. But then maybe an hour later, I actually woke up from the pain. So I went into the living room just so that I wouldn't wake Charlie up, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. And I think it made me throw up as well. Had a blood pressure monitor at home. It was always fine until this day when it had shot up, and I think it was like 140 over 90 or something like that, which for me was very high. I waited 10 minutes. Thought, okay, it's probably anxiety. Did it again, and lo and behold, it was still high. So I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna ring maternity triage. At that point, because I'd been sick, pain was getting worse, I couldn't sleep through it, I was thinking that I potentially had an appendicitis. I rang maternity triage and they said, yes, come in. So it's about 1 o'clock in the morning, woke Charlie up, and he took me into maternity triage. They hooked me up to a monitor to just test my blood pressure, which did end up levelling out fine. And they scanned the baby and did a Doppler on the baby, and the baby was fine. So we kind of ruled out that it was a pregnancy problem. It was fine. I could feel him moving about in my stomach. I wasn't concerned. So she said, you're going to have to go down to A&E. So I did. Went down to A&E, and then I just started throwing up. The pain got quite a lot worse, and I started throwing up, and I felt really funny. And so the doctor came in, and he said to Charlie and I that he thinks it's an appendicitis as well, because they were very classic symptoms of one of those. He hooked me up to some pain relief, and then I went and had some ultrasounds and things to check this region. Anyway, they came back absolutely fine. And by this time, I think it had been we'd been there like 6 hours. It was the morning. Charlie was absolutely starving. He'd just been sat on a chair the whole time. Bless him. The pain relief had started working, so I wasn't actually feeling that bad anymore. And they'd given me some anti-sickness as well, so I'd stopped being sick. I just said, look, I think I'll go home. And if the pain persists into the evening, he wants me to speak to a surgeon. And I was thinking, why? Everything's come back fine, but okay. And I went home. Pain did not subside. It was probably worse for about 2 days, and I was being sick constantly. Now, what we had established and what my consultant had established, because I, funnily enough, had an appointment with him 2 days after the A&E event, was that it was something called round ligament pain, which made me feel absolutely pathetic. But doing some research on it, people have really struggled with it before. You have like 2 ligaments that go down either side of your uterus, essentially, and when your uterus starts to stretch and expand, especially when it's kind of doing that initial big growth stage in the second trimester, it can get really tight and painful, and that was definitely the pain that I was experiencing. So I just did a lot of like posture work, looked at the way I was sleeping, got myself a belly band for a couple of weeks. That has now subsided. So other than the sickness, tiredness and round ligament pain, that's really my only symptoms of my first and second trimester. Will you find out the gender? So by now you'll all know we're having a boy. Obviously this was asked before we'd done a gender reveal. How we found out, and I will insert the footage in a second of us finding out. Like I said before, we're really low-key people, so we did decide that at our 10-week NIPT test that we wanted the gender to be confirmed by that blood test. We went into hospital, I had a set of bloods done, and then you kind of just eagerly await the results being emailed to you. The email through, so I set up the camera and we just had a really intimate like gender reveal where we just looked at the email together, and it said sex of fetus, male. And it was honestly, that's probably one of my favourite moments of the whole pregnancy. I know that deep down, you know, Charlie was really excited to be having a little boy. I too think it's lovely that our first one is going to be a little boy. Someone asked me on the Q&A, when did you pop? Because when I'd posted the Q&A, I think I was about 20 weeks, so I did have a little bump. But I had a couple of people say like, oh, you have a bump? I don't yet. I'm like 14 weeks or something like that. I first got my bump. Let's have a look through my camera roll, actually. Yeah, so there was a picture that Charlie took of me when we went walking. Quite a crap photo, actually. I don't know if you can see that. Where I was like, oh goodness, you can tell I'm pregnant there. That was the 27th of March, right before my birthday, and I was on the 27th of March. I was 17 weeks and 5 days pregnant. Yeah, so my bump probably popped then at about 17 weeks. And it does grow really quick after that. You would not have been able to tell at all that I was pregnant before that point. And I think that's really common with first pregnancies. I think it is different for any pregnancies after. 2 more questions that I had was about exercise and then about a name. Someone asked me, have I still been working out during my pregnancy, and what did I change? I did answer it on my Instagram story, but if I'm honest, not an awful lot. I did not work out. I think I worked out once during my first trimester when I woke up and had a good day, but that really did not last long. And then in my second trimester, I think I've probably worked out overall 6 or 7 times. And the third trimester, let's just forget it. I always went into my pregnancy that when I got pregnant, I would work out, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I didn't even want to when I felt sick. And then during my second trimester, I did it a little bit more, but still not a lot. And it's something that I think I'll look back on and potentially wish that I'd made a little bit more of a conscious effort, but I really have controlled my nutrition. I have not used it as an excuse to eat over the calories that I should do. So I don't feel like I've gained like any unnecessary weight, which was, it might sound really vain, but that was something that I was worried about, especially in the industry that I'm in. So I think I've just controlled my physique more so with my nutrition. But when I did work out, I really didn't change an awful lot, other than obviously didn't do anything that was laying on my front, didn't really do any crunches and things like that. And then the last question was about names. Do you have a name? And will you be sharing the name? We're obviously not going to share the name before the baby's here, but we do have a name. But oh my goodness Christ, why is that the hardest thing to decide? I would like to make everyone aware that I am with the pickiest male on planet Earth when it comes to names. I would give a suggestion. No suggestion. No suggestion. Are you mad? I'm a normal woman. I have a very long baby. Do you know what? I'm even going to tell you some of these names. I have a very long baby name list that I have collated. Every single one of them was declined. Oscar, Miles, Jude. I quite liked the name Rory. Arthur. I liked the name Arthur because my granddad's middle name is Arthur. Cove. Didn't like that. Quite liked the name Oakley. Didn't like that. Can't remember if I said the name Jude, but I liked that. One day, I was thinking about something that was like sentimental to us and meaningful to us. I'm not even going to say anything more than that because I don't want to give it away. He's not Potentia. Our baby will not be Potentia before anyone thinks that. And I said the name to him and he was like, I like it. Stuck ever since. I'm pretty set on that name. I can't really envisage us changing our minds or coming up with anything else. Really try to not use the name so that we don't get sick of it. So at the moment, he is referred to in my belly as Baby John. Don't ask me why. The child will not be called John, but right now he is Baby John in my stomach, and we will be posting the name once he has arrived. It was my first and second trimester recap, Q&A, call it what you want. Hope you enjoyed. As I'm 34 weeks, I'm now going to be thinking about packing my hospital bag. I will show you some bits that I've organised and how I'm prepping for labour, all of that kind of stuff. I'm also planning on recording the birth if I can. So please do make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my uploads. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you soon.